Fellow tennis nerds, I hope all is well. Welcome to another racket review. This time we look at the update of the relatively new line of rackets from Tecnifibre called TFX1. It's an odd name you might think, but it's an interesting racket for sure. It's all about spin and power. I did review the version 1 of this a couple of years ago. I did like it, but it was a little bit too explosive for my liking. It's quite firm, so stiff racket, lots of power, lots of spin, open patterns. That's why I was very interested in the 98 square inch V2 version that they released. So they didn't have a 98 square inch racket of this line, TFX1, before, but now they have it and it's here and it looks a little bit more yellow. As you know, Tecnifibre, they're very gutsy. They stick with their white theme. Not everyone likes white rackets, so I think that's a pretty gutsy move in that sense. They should probably consider having maybe a blackout version or some kind of other French flag version, because it's owned by Lacoste, so I could imagine seeing some other colorways, but they stick with white rackets. I personally like white rackets, but I know many that don't, and we get into that in my podcast with Luca, for example. So this is the Tecnifibre TFX1 V2 98 square inch, and this has some crazy specs. And you look at the racket, maybe you can see it here. This beam is so thick. It feels very thick in the hand. With the white color, it looks like a giant of a racket, but it swings fast. And with the specs, it's kind of shockingly fast, which I like. So it plays a lot faster than if you just see the specs on paper. You'll be like, okay, I can't play with this. That's crazy, right? But it does play a lot faster. And I don't think it's a quality control thing in terms that the swing weight was very high. So we're talking about strung swing weight with a standard string like the Hyper G, around 1.25 gauge, pretty standard poly, 338.5 if I look at my Metor tune there. Great product, by the way. If you want to check out and be like a professional pro shop, I can really recommend this one because it connects to my computer, sends all the specs of my rackets to the computer, which is for me great to have a library. It also automates kind of where I need to place lead tape to match rackets, so it's a great device. Anyway, enough about that. Tecnifibre, they made a fast whippy racket with a 338 strung swing weight, and that's a lot. So if you take it unstrung, you can deduct 30 points. It's around 308-9 points unstrung, which is very high for a retail racket. The issue is if you get one that's even above that spec, it's gonna be a beast to swing. I did not feel that with this one because the static weight 305 grams unstrung, or for mine was 331 because I added 2 overgrips. I feel like the grip shape of Tecnifibre rackets is a bit too rectangular for my taste. It's quite an extreme grip shape. It's not like the even sides of a Prince, or you know, the more rounded feel of a Wilson or a Head TK82S grip shape. It's definitely a lot more old school in the terms of the rectangular feel, similar to the Vulcan racket that I'm going to be reviewing soon. The technology that they boast here, which is their dampening vibration filtration system, it's called X-Damp. So it's based on that old kind of René Lacoste steel tube in the handle to filter out vibrations. Seems to work pretty well. I have not noticed any arm issues with this frame. I did string it really low at 45 pounds and I did bump it up to 50 pounds. I'm really trying to reduce my tension. I don't want any arm issues and I want to make sure I can play. And I do think that polys played best at slightly lower tension. So kind of my 49, 50 is my standard these days. Used to be like 52, 53. So this frame, lots of power and spin. For a 98, it's the most powerful and spin-friendly racket I've played, probably since the Aero VS. I think the Aero 98 is not quite as powerful as the Aero VS, as that is stiffer. And this one is probably a little bit stiffer still, with a bit better comfort for sure than the Aero VS. But yeah, it's gonna be tough to control. So it really is for you who can hit and generate lots of rotations on the ball with your swing. So a modern swing, an advanced player, it can really work on shorter swing as well, but it's a bit heavy maybe. But I had to kind of shorten the swing a lot to really utilize the racket, as I don't have the best technique. Daniel liked it, which was weird because he usually doesn't like most rackets I give him because he has a very specific Aero VS, which is customized, but this one he enjoyed because he thought the swing weight was interesting, quite powerful, spin friendly. So this was one of his favorite rackets he's tested in a long time. I've been playing with it on and off. I think it's a fun racket like the previous generation. It's very fun to use. Like, it puts a smile on your face with that massive launch, spin, power. You get so much for free. Like, those kind of rackets are fun, and you puts a smile on your face. It also looks quite extreme, and it's a racket you're like, okay, it's quite fun to use. When it comes to confidence, that's not really what I find the most of in this racket. I feel like I really need to shorten the swing, make sure I add enough topspin, and I need to adjust my game a bit to play with this frame because it's so extreme. But if you're looking for an extreme racket that gives you all that, this one should be on the interesting list for sure. Because it also plays a little bit like it has a bigger head size than a 98. It's quite wide and open and quite forgiving. So on defense, I could just like put the racket on the ball and it will go back with interest. But when it comes to pinpoint precision, yeah, I didn't feel like I had it with this frame. I needed to really make sure I swing a little bit differently than what I'm used to, and either shorten the swing to use more of the wrist, or try to play with more spin or a more modern, you know, kind of style. So if you're a modern player looking to get max power and spin from a 98, and that's still very whippy for its swing weight, then this is really something you should look at, because it gives you massive amounts of everything. However, if you want control, if you want confidence, if you're worried about balls going out, this one is gonna send balls flying sometimes. And I also tried this racket, the TFX1 98 square inch 305 gram with Dennis, a good player who likes to test rackets. He's been on the podcast before, you might recognize him. And what did you think, Dennis, when you played with this?
I liked it. I'm not sure about the string. That's what we just said during the hit as well, that I thought that it's a little bit soft for me. So that's why I couldn't really go for the shots that much, because I had a bit of a trampoline effect. Yeah. But the racket itself seems nice. It has a quite nice hold for the ball. I even asked Giannis if it was the RA, and he said 71. So I think it's quite nice for a 71. It has a really nice control. And you said about the X damp, which gives it a bit more sort of dampened feel, as most of the nowadays rackets have.
Most modern rackets, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, all together, I can say that it was a nice feeling racket, although I lost with it, but you know, it was good.
Yeah, if you play with three different rackets. No, but it's a good frame. It's just something that you need to really be prepared for power and spin, and like the ball really wants to go pretty high, right? So especially if you don't, maybe if you string 25 kilos, 55 pounds, you're gonna kill a little bit of the launch angle, but it's gonna feel firmer. So it's like you have to find your balance point of that, you know. So what do you play normally? You pure drive, right?
Yeah, I play with the Pure Drive 98, which is not a million miles away from this in terms of comfort and feel. It's a bit firmer, I would say, and I've been playing a Pure Drive for loads of years, but I tried a few other ones as well, but this seemed like the closest to the Pure Drive maybe. Nowadays, as some of you guys know, I'm sort of focusing on paddle, but now, you know, whenever I'm in Marbella, I definitely want to hit with Giannis. So yeah, I really like this.
I didn't feel like this string bed is very inconsistent in any sense, but it's very open. So you can even see it here, like the holes here are very wide in the middle. I do feel like it does eat strings quite quickly with that open pattern, and it does lend itself to some inconsistencies depending on where you hit the ball. I mean, it's up to the player. It's nothing like wrong with the racket, but I feel like it's an extreme racket for players who like extreme rackets. It's not for you looking for a balanced frame. This is not about balance, it's about power and spin. It's a good racket, it's fun to use, pretty solid and stable. I felt like for sure this was easier to play on clay. With the slower ball, we have more time to set up than on a hard court where you maybe want to go through the ball a bit more, you want to be the aggressor. This did not work as well. On serves, it was a blast cannon, like really nice for serving, but it was the control that was my letdown. Tecnifibre, they do have a lot of control rackets. TF40 and the T-Fight series, they're all more about control, so makes sense that they went bananas with this line. But yeah, interesting to see if more players use it. We have on the Pro Tour Corentin Moutin using the 100 square inch version, but I'm not sure. With the pros, you can really never know unless you have the racket in your hands, or a stringer can send you some information. But yeah, it's an extreme racket for extreme players. He's kind of an extreme guy, so it's fun to see him use it. I like it, but it's a bit much, to be fair, for me. But if you're into it, let me know in the comments how you play with this TFX1 V2 98 square inch version. Don't be fooled by the 98, it's still a monster in terms of power and spin. if you want more reviews, more racket info, more content, discount codes to Tennis Warehouse Europe and other websites, you check out tennisnerd.net and our deals page, or our racket guide to rackets and string guide. It's a useful resource, I hope, to many of you, and it's completely free of charge to go on that website. If you want to support Tennis Nerd, you can become a YouTube member, or you can join Patreon, where you get some rackets for sale and you have some new content every week, a little bit more personalized content about my old racket journey and other stuff. Have a nice day, and don't forget to play some tennis.